is basically the change in y over the change in x. Okay? All right, change in y over the change in x. Now, some of you may label these x1, y1, and x2, y2. I don't care if you do that. If that's what you're doing, that's fine. I didn't label them 1 and 2, but you can. Now, okay, tell me, change in y, is that a vertical change or is that a horizontal change? Yeah, that's the rise, correct? Change in y is the rise. That's why we call it rise over run. Change in y is the rise, change in x is the run. Now, there's a whole lot of writing, just to review words. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it another way in a second. What I like to do is I just like to take my y's and subtract them. So I'm doing the change, 2 minus a negative 1. You may go there a different way, and that's okay. So 2 minus a negative 1 and 5 minus 4. It doesn't matter what order you go in. You get the same answer. What's 2 minus a negative 1? 3 over 1. But you can leave it like that, or you can write it as 3. Now, some of you learned it this way last year. 5, 2, 4, negative 1. Okay? How much did the y change? It went, what, down? How many? 3. It went down 3. How much did the x change? Which will also give me positive 3. They're the same. Either way, I don't care. Whatever you're comfortable with for finding slope. Okay? It's the same. All right, so that's the slope. Let's do another one here. I'm going to do change in y. This is how I like to do it. 3 minus 6, and then divided by change in x. Negative 3 over negative 6 equals positive 1/2. That is my slope. If you did a table, you should get the same answer. Is this line going to go up, or is this line going to go down? Up. Puff, puff, positive, right? Puff, puff, positive. Okay. Graph the lines that go through the given points. So you're going to plot these 2 points. Negative 2, negative 2. Over 6, up 4. Connect them as straight as you can. You can do arrows because there's no restrictions here. So the line goes forever. No restrictions. When you have a graph, just count rise over run. It's way easy. Okay? When you have a graph, just count rise over run. So I always start with rise. I go from here up to here. How much did I go up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Plus 6 is my rise. Correct? That's going to be my top number. And then I go over in the positive direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's my run. Rise over run. Change in y over change in x. And then you reduce it to 3/4. That's my slope. Okay? You do this one. Same concept. Plot the 2 points and count rise over run. Did you get a nice negative?
Yeah.
And is your line going down? If you plot these points and you have a line going down, you better be sure you get a negative. Correct?
Oh, okay. I did the other way.
It doesn't matter. You can do a rise of positive and a negative run, and you'll still get negative 1/5. Okay? How many people went this way? So from here to here first. Did you do that first?
Yeah.
That's a positive one, correct? That's your rise. And then your run is going to be in the -5 direction. So you still get negative 1/5. Doesn't matter. Okay? All right. Let's do this one. Oh, let's see what happens. -2 down 1 over 4 down 1. Oh. What kind of line is it?
Zero.
It's zero fun. It's a horizontal line. But just for the heck of it, let's do rise over run. What's my rise? 0. My run from here to here is 6. When I divide, I get 0. Which I better?
So 0.
So the slope is 0. Okay? The slope is 0. Hey, but here, this is another thing I want you to start noticing. What do you notice about the y-coordinates? Both of them are what?
Same.
They're the same.
So it's gonna be on the X.
So it's going to be a horizontal line because all the y-coordinates are -1. Does anybody know what the equation of this line is, if that's the case? If all the y-coordinates are -1, what's the equation of that line? You've done it. What about -1?
Y will always be -1.
So say that as an equation. Y equals, that's the equation. Remember? You were graphing those yesterday or the day before. Okay? All right, this one here. -3, 1, -3, and -3. Oh, look at that. What kind of line is that? It's vertical, and its slope is undefined. If I were to do rise over run, just because, I could say the rise was 4, but the run is 0. What happens when you try and do 4 divided by 0 on your calculator? It says error. It says, like, you idiot, what are you trying, you want me to do what? You want me to take 4 and divide it into 0 groups? You can't do that. It doesn't work. That's why it's undefined. Okay? So this slope is undefined. And do not say this slope is 0. Is that a true statement? No. You have to say 0 here, and you have to say undefined here for slope. Okay? All right, turn it over. What? Did I say something bad? Oh. Okay. Let's talk about this. Now, we got to apply some of this stuff. The table shows the cost to paint a house for the given number of hours. Find the rate of change in cost with respect to time. What depends on what? Does the cost depend on the number of hours painted or the other way around? Did the number of hours painted depend on the cost? Cost depends on the hours, right? So the time is X and the cost is Y. Y is the dependent. It depends on the X. So I need to do the change in Y over the change in X. Change in Y over the change in X. That's how I find rate of change. Rate of change is the same as slope. Exactly the same as slope. So I'm going to do change in Y over change in X. Just put it in the basket. You done? Okay. All right, so it doesn't matter what numbers you use. I'm just going to do 90 minus 135, and then I'm going to do 4 minus 6, as long as I go in the same order. I get negative 45 over negative 2. Don't put it into a decimal. The thing you do have to do, though, is negative divided by negative is just going to be a what? positive. So you're going to write it as, just write it as 45 over 2. That's fine.
Wouldn't you have to make it into a normal fraction?
No, I don't want a mixed number. You don't use mixed numbers for slope. You don't use decimals for slope, right? This tells me rise over run right here. So it's best not to change it, okay? All right, the graph shows the number of computer games sold day 1, day 4, day 7, day 9 of a sale. Describe the rates of change in sales with respect to time. So I got a few rates of change I got to figure out. So if you look at the graph here, the x-axis represents my days because it only goes up till 10, right? And my y-axis obviously represents my games. You see that? Sometimes you have to look at the graph. So this is my x and y, x and y, x and y, x and y. And they're all points. So plot them, 1 and 45. 1 and 45. Let's plot that point. Now with this kind of graph, you kind of just got to guess about where 45 is. And I want you to put D1 there. That's day 1. And I want you to write the ordered pair. It's going to be kind of messy, but that's okay. Then you're going to do day 4, which is 4 and 114. It's about here. D4 is 4 and 114. And connect them. Do the next point. Over 7 and up to 144. So about here. That's day 7. 7, 144. And then I'm going to connect those. It's not a straight line. It's a little bit off. And then you're going to do the last one. So day 9 at 102, and obviously the sales did what? They dropped, didn't they? That's D9, not 109, that's D9. Okay, what we need to do for this problem is we have to describe the rates of change of sales with respect for time. So we got to find out the average number of games sold here for this piece, and then here, and then here. We're going to find the rate of change for each piece of this line. So from day 1 to day 4, D1 to D4. The rate of change is the same as what? Slope, right? So I'm just going to subtract my y's, change in y. 114 minus 45, that's my change in y over my change in x. Change in y over change in x between those 2 points. 69 divided by 3 equals 23 games per day. So they sold 23 games per day during this sale between those 3 days. Now let's look and see what happened between day 4 and day 7. You do the same thing. These 2 points. Day 4, day 7. So we got 144 minus 114. And 7 minus 4. So the sales are going down. Here they only did 10 games per day. And then let's do this last one, D7 to D9. What's going to happen to this slope, you guys? Was it going to be positive or negative here? We're going to get a negative number, which means the sales really dropped off. Okay? So between these 2 points, it doesn't matter which way you go. We can go 144 minus 102. And then 7 minus 9. Just going to give us a negative number, which is what we want, because the line's going down. 42 over negative 2, negative 21 games per day. Honestly, I don't know what that means to the situation. It just means that they really lost money, apparently. Yeah. So that's how you do that. You're just comparing the slope between each piece. I'm only going to do one of these problems for the sake of time. They're exactly the same. Okay? So it says find the value of x or y so that the line passing through the given points has the given slope. So there's a line that goes between these 2 points, and it has this slope. Does that mean, does that line go down or up?
Down.
Down. Now, all along I've been saying this. M equals change in what?
Y.
Change in y over change in x. I know this. Hey, what did they give me here? They gave me what? They gave me what? M, didn't they? So can I replace the M with this?
Yes.
And the negative is out front, so I'm just going to choose to put it on the numerator. It doesn't matter. I'm substituting the M with the slope that they gave me. I know that the slope equals change in y, so can I write that? 1 minus 7. 1 minus 7. Change in y. Over change in x. Yeah, there's a variable, but so what? I can still write it, 8 minus x. Because you know how to solve these. You did it in chapter 1. Last chapter. Now let's make it pretty. I can make this top, what? Negative 6. I can make a negative 6, can't I? 1 minus 7. So I'm just going to rewrite it with the numerator as negative 6. And I'm going to put what around my denominator? Parentheses. Because it's an expression. And then it's a proportion. How do I solve proportions? Cross multiply. I know, you got to really pay attention. Cross multiply. And you were just tested on that. So I'm going to write this right now as negative 1 times this thing. Negative 1 times 8 minus x. That's that cross multiply right there. Chillax, man. Equals 2 times negative 6. Almost done. Can you solve it now? You distribute the negative 1. Negative 8 plus x equals negative 12. And then what?